4 people with 4 unique stories on one mission to disassemble corporate brokerage one bad suit and tie at a time. We are the Rebels of Real Estate.
Good morning, people.
Hola.
Good afternoon, good evening,
What are
wherever
the
you are
shades
when
for?
you're listening. The sun is bothering my eyes.
It is actually
today.
really bright on this side.
Sorry,
I'm not
Is
gonna
it?
lie.
I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
cool.
It is bright over
I
Where
here.
am
is
wearing
that tent?
sunglasses.
I thought you were one of those people.
Adam, why
not.
don't you tell them what number we're at?
We're on number 10 podcast.
Oh, you got to get closer.
Closer.
Number 10 podcast.
There you go. Get
I
them.
said it.
Big
See, if
Daddy.
you were wearing your headphones, you'd know that you couldn't hear yourself.
I would have been able to tell, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
you would have known.
Podcast Diaz.
We have a special guest today.
We have
Special
a very special guest. And it's our second guest, so super exciting. Mr. Joe Buchert. Woo. I said it wrong.
Boogert.
Booger.
Bookert.
Boucher.
It's just Joe.
It's just Joe.
I'm fine with that, just Joe.
Joe.
Just Joe.
Did you get called Joey as a kid or anything like that? Or Joseph?
I still get called Joe by my family.
You got to get
Do
closer
you?
to the mic, big guy.
It throws people off when they meet people, or when I take new people around my mom, and they'll be like, "What?"
Joey?
Hey, Joe. I'm going
It
to call you
sticks at
Joey
home.
from now on.
Joey.
That's happened a few times too, where people start calling me that after meeting my family. Great, now everyone's going to call me that.
Yeah, everyone, if you're hearing this, all 6.5 listeners,
All 6.5.
all of our 6.5 listeners call him Joey from now
you
on.
see Mr. Boogert, call him Joey.
The next owner's tree, they'll be interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you get Joseph when you got yelled at?
Oh yeah, yep,
Like the full name?
yep.
Okay.
Well, normally that would be Joseph Wilson,
Oh, okay. Now
Your
we
middle
know.
name's
So
Wilson?
did you get the last name or the middle name?
middle name.
Middle name.
You know you're screwed when the last name comes out.
I don't think I ever had that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I had all
Did
3.
you?
Yeah, that's bad.
But I have said that to my son, like he's definitely gotten the full name.
Yeah, my mom hit me with all 3. Right?
And you know you're
First,
in trouble.
middle, and last. And I'm like, done.
Yeah.
And she would just beat the crap out of me.
Wow.
Different time.
Aggressive.
I deserved it. Trust me.
I normally deserved it too.
Could you imagine me as a kid? My mom should have beat me probably a lot more than she did.
I think you still need a beating every once in a while.
I'm here for it, big guy.
I might need one too, occasionally.
So, Joe, can you share a little bit about yourself with our audience of 6.5 people?
What about myself?
like, you know, how you got into real estate, how you came to be here with us, this group of people.
Oh, what's the nutshell? I took a very meandering path after. At first, I was in psychology, and then I decided that didn't pay enough, and so I decided to go to nursing school, and then I decided I couldn't be a nurse forever. Well, kind of like Adam, decided I couldn't be a nurse forever because that job is hard as hell, and decided that I kind of like looking at houses. We started looking for our first house, and I was like, I kind of like this. I think I could do this, and then I went to real estate school, and that just became what I decided I liked the most. And I liked the flexible schedule, and I liked being able to be home with the kids. And then I met the other partner over at Iron Valley, Mel, and her and I were going to start a team. And then we just happened to happen upon Adam, and
You happened
then
upon
things
them.
just happened. And then he was like, "Hey, do you want to open an office?" And we were like, "We didn't think about that before, but sure." And 6 years later, and things are going well.
Here we are.
Here we are.
How did you happen upon Adam? You found him down the
Mutual
street?
lender friend.
He was under a rock.
Yeah.
He's on the side of the road.
A mutual lender friend was like, "Hey, there's this new broker over in Lebanon who's a nurse. You should call him because I think you'd get along."
Oh,
And
cool.
then we did.
That's funny.
So
Nice.
it can all be traced back to Nick Ruzis.
There you go.
It was, yeah.
Is that
So it wasn't a rock on the side of the road.
It was not. Nope. Nick is actually the one who introduced Mel and I, and then introduced the two of us to Adam. So
Oh, nice.
it really is. Nick is the nexus.
Nick.
Nick is the
Nick
nexus.
is the glue.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
So we wanted Joe to join us today, not only because he is an amazing owner and realtor. I'm sure your clients say that about you all the time, that you're an amazing realtor.
I hope so.
Yeah, you get great feedback. But he brings a perspective to this table the rest of us lack. Not only is this National Home Ownership Month, it's also Pride Month. We wanted to spend time today having an open and honest dialogue about our own experiences with the LGBTQ plus community. We hope this conversation will provide knowledge, understanding, and respect to the members and allies of this community. I feel like this is the best place to start for us to answer this question. Show of hands, how many of us in this room are friends with someone who is part of the LGBTQ plus community?
Raising hands, no one.
Raising hands. Everybody's raising hands.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
of us, all 6 of us in this room have raised our hands.
All the people.
How many of us have a family member who are part of this community? That's 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6 in the room. And how many of us are actually a part of this community? We got 1. Uno.
Wait,
uno
Joe's
amigo.
gay? Wait. I didn't even know. That's so
Really,
weird.
Joe? Are you serious?
I mean, I felt this was a good time to come out.
That's
Why not
awesome that you're doing it.
That's cool.
So 6 people are going to know about it. That's
If you're not doing anything later.
I'm pretty sure the husband wouldn't appreciate that.
I think you would.
Sean might have a problem.
Sorry, Sean.
No. The point of me even asking that question and starting there is because everyone, obviously, the environment has been a little bit contentious lately with the LGBTQ plus community. But I think the glaring thing is all of us in this room have a relationship with somebody in some way, shape, or form with somebody in this community. And I just wanted to show that because I don't think people talk about that enough, that you hear these people say horrible things, but the truth is they may have a family member who are part of that community. They may have a friend that is part of the community. They themselves may actually be part of the community. So let's go from there. Let's talk about the first experience we had with the LGBTQ plus community. If you can think back that far, because some of us are old. I'm old, but anyone who wants to go first?
I will. So I think I told you in one of our episodes, I think 3 people listened to that one, but there was a kid, this is when I was probably 17 or 18. This is my first, I wouldn't say first experience with a gay person, but my first experience with a person that I kind of became friends with. We worked together. Pretty sure he liked me, but that's okay. But he ended up killing himself, and his name was Jimmy Wheeler. He was an awesome kid, really good kid. Family was not real supportive from what I could tell and what he would tell, us as friends. And just the weight and the pressure that he had on him at that time, it was harder, for him to be able to be who he was. And I just understanding that being marginalized as being a person of color, it's the same type of feeling. And I think that's where we kind of connected. Mm-hmm. Great guy, great kid. So that was my first experience.
I mean, I'll go back even further. And I sent Joe like some of the topics we were going to talk. I sent it to all of you guys about the topics, and he called me out on this one, and I'm glad he did. But it also showed my age because, I mean, I'm going to go back.
26, aren't you?
I am 20. No, I don't think I'd want to be anymore.
That's true.
That would be weird too, because I have a 20-year-old. But anyway,
that's a whole other different. That's a whole different episode.
That's a whole different. But I go back to like being a child who was born in the late 70s, and we heard the word gay all the time, or lesbian. It was always gay. The LGBTQ plus part of it is a newer for, acronym, right? So for me, it was always, I remember being on the bus and kids making fun of a kid and calling him gay. And that's, to me, I can go all the way back to that. That's like the first experience I ever had with hearing gay. And then the parents who would be like, well, that just means they're happy. Like that was how they would justify that word. So.
Yeah, it was, growing up, gay was a derogatory word. It sucks, but it was, right? I know growing up that's how I used it. Like, if you were making fun of your friend who was a guy, you'd be like, hi, you're gay. Or why are you doing that? That's gay, right? That was literally what we did. And
I kind of still say it.
Oh, man. But
in that kind of term, though, like,
yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Killing it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I try not to.
I'm not perfect.
I'm not going to say that it doesn't come out because you use it for so long. But it's funny because for me, when you look back, then it was just normal. You just said that. And we kind of talked about it with the N word too, because people would use that for different things like N knocking and an N stick. Remember
I
that? All those things?
That.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So it's kind of like, you know, it was a derogatory word for a long time. And it's kind of crappy that we use that the way we did, because there's people out there that were actually gay and they're sitting there thinking,
Right.
man, this sucks. Like, you're making fun of that kid and he's not even gay. And here I am gay. And, you know, you're throwing that a word around. So that's what you just kind of just thought, made me think about that. But that's, as a kid, we just tossed that term around like it was nothing. Like,
because as kids, we didn't care about, I mean, we were all out to hurt each other. You know what I mean? I think that's really all. I wouldn't say we're out to hurt each other, but kids are mean.
I mean, we also didn't understand what that meant in the 80s. I mean, I was born in 79. So the 80s were like, you didn't talk about that, you know? And then I think, I don't know when my first experience was, but I mean, I'd started in the restaurant industry at 16 years old. And I feel like there was plenty of people that were gay in the restaurant industry. I mean, that was huge in that industry. There was so I didn't really think anything of it. So I don't have a defining moment that I met a gay person that made me feel like, oh, I met a gay person.
Yeah.
I think I've always been like that. Like, I grew up in an area that was kind of inner city, right? So I had a bunch of black friends. I had Puerto Rican friends as a little kid. I had probably kids that were gay and whatever else. I never looked at anyone differently for what they chose, you know? So I don't know. No defining moments for the gay person that I met.
I think for me, I mostly is, growing up in school is, there's a lot of bullying that went on, I remember, even in middle school, somebody that was gay and, I think he struggled, with that because kids can be inherently mean, and it's not just gay, it's fat, like being overweight, socially awkward, all kinds of things. Kids are really good at picking up on weaknesses or, lacking traits of people and exploiting them. And I'm not going to say I'm not one of them. I mean, I think we've all one time or another, as kids done that. And, so I can't imagine, facing that or dealing with that, and I didn't have to, but, funny story is like, that same gay kid that got picked on and made fun of, I would give him a ride from Votech, from school, Votech back to school. And, we ended up being cool and friends and like, he's a nice guy. And, so I just look at it like you gotta, people are people, and you gotta emphasize and picking on or bullying or whatever else. I mean, it's, it does damage to people. And you have to be aware of that. We're all human, and have emotions. So that's my experience.
I think an interesting thing that is Rob's kind of over there talking about it being used in the past tense derogatorily. I hear it with kids today, and I'm super like I always try to educate, and if I'm around a group of kids and their parents, and I'm like, it's really not cool that your kids are like saying that. And I've seen like parents are in a much different area now where they will like be more attuned to that, but kids, they're just as likely to do it now as they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And being at home with a 10 and 13-year-old now, kids are damn mean. They are just mean. And and it doesn't even have to be negative aspects. Like, it can be you're too skinny. It can be you don't have enough muscle. It can be you got a big, like, they're just like nagging.
Whatever it is that they can exploit,
Right.
that's what they're going to do. Yeah.
You're too smart. Even smart is a bad thing when you're a kid. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you get straight A's. All you do, man,
You're such a
teacher's
nerd.
pet, teacher's
Yeah.
pet, nerd, whatever it is,
And
right?
especially now with social media,
Oh yeah.
like
I
you
can't even
you can't escape from it, right? Like you go home and it's all there. It doesn't go away. Like I even, remember moving from schools, I changed schools in 4th grade, and it was a struggle for me a little bit to kind of like find my way and fit in, and, some bullying and stuff that I faced. And it's like, you can go home from school and get away with that, have that reprieve. I can't imagine, having that in like the social media aspect of it. So definitely a different world, and probably even more important to, address bullying and these types of, situations.
Were you guys the bully or the ones being bullied?
I was
Or a mixture?
So I was weird, man. I always stuck up for the underdog, always.
Yeah.
That was just my place for some reason. So if a kid was getting picked on,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking of, and this kid was just a short kid there was these 3 dudes messing with him. And I'm like, hey, why don't you pick on me? And they picked on me and beat the snot out of me. There's 3 of them. I mean, I fought all 3 of them. One of them was like a 40-year-old man when I was 16. So I was always that kid, sticking up for the underdog. Yeah, but I did bully. There was times I would bully too, but most of the time I think I was the guy that was always sticking up for the guy or girl that was kind of the underdog.
I was a mix, and like if you go back to like elementary school, right?
It's hard to pinpoint it.
Like I got bullied, but that usually didn't end well. I usually just fought. And I did bully kids. You know what I mean? That's what we did when we were in school. Like you did everything. You did both. So I don't think I carried that on. Probably middle school time is probably when that changed. But I would say elementary school, like that's just what you did.
See, I got
a little bit of both.
I feel like middle school was worse.
Yeah, I got bullied. I got bullied
Middle
for
school
being
is
black.
definitely.
I got bullied for being black. I got bullied for going to a Catholic school, for wearing a tie. And I had to ride the bus with all of the public school kids to
to go to school.
I mean, the bus was where you learn your lessons.
Oh, for sure.
It was definitely a proving ground until one gentleman, and I'm saying his name was Jeremy Stump, called me a nigger the last day, and I knocked him out. and that was
Rightfully
that.
so.
And that was that.
Right.
Get some.
Yeah.
Was that Stumpy? Or
Well, his name's Jer Stump. I don't know.
Good old Stumpy.
I don't know if they call him Stumpy now.
It's kind of a bad nickname.
Stumpy. I would not want to be called Stumpy.
I don't think he has legs anymore, actually. So maybe they do.
Oh, damn.
That was me. That was me. Sorry.
Wow.
I was the bully there. I was just the bully.
Yeah.
I kind of go both. Like I was bullied, and middle school was definitely the worst because I was scrawny. I was a late bloomer, so as a girl, you got bullied for really the wrong reasons.
Right.
But I do remember picking on kids too, and not saying nice things, and it's not a good thing. And I'm sure today I still do it, and I don't mean to do it. It's that microaggression or that stuff that's back in your head that you've heard over and over again, and you catch yourself. I mean, saying the stupidest things that you shouldn't be saying, and it's just that's how it's been programmed in you, and you just don't necessarily know how to get rid of it. Unfortunately,
I was not really overweight, but like back in the 80s, like in 90s, like it was the husky type. Like, and I remember like the first time I realized that husky meant overweight, and I was just harassed constantly about I was not super big, but I was a heavier kid. And I can remember like being, as much as that bullying was worse, I can remember like, I think it was 3rd grade. I was the first time I realized that I was different, and then by 5th grade, like I could put a label to it. No, I was gay. And I remember thinking, holy heck, like the bullying about being overweight has been so bad. Like, and in the time period of that time, like it was such an overwhelming burden to be like, I'm gonna have to tell people about this sometime. Like because I never really thought I'd be the person who would say, I'm just going to live. I mean, I did try. Like back in the 90s, like everybody tried not to be gay. But I have very vivid memories of being like a kid in 4th grade being like, oh God, this is like the worst thing ever. Now flipping it to now, like it was the best thing ever. I like have a great life. I have a great family. Like, but for kids, it is a really hard thing to come to terms with.
When you said, I'm sorry, I had a question for you. When you were 3rd grade, I mean, what was it that you realized that made you different? I mean, I was an early bloomer, as like I hit puberty early, probably about 3rd grade, and I realized that like when other boys were starting to talk about girls, like I was like, there was a kid in my class, and I was like, well, I kind of have a crush on this kid. I'm not going to name him out, but like because it was a small Catholic school, and there was not many of us. But I was like, that's kind of what I realized. Like I was like, I'm attracted to this person, and I shouldn't be. And then by 5th grade, I was like, oh, that's why. Like this is.
And you're in a Catholic school at the same time.
Oh yeah.
which is more judgment heaped on top of that.
Oh yeah. Catholic school, I come from a pretty conservative family. Like it was the whole kit and caboodle as far as that.
Can I ask you another question? Do you think your family knew from an early age, or what's your mom and dad what have they said to you?
So we are at a very good place now. And I think they always did, at least my mother always knew, because I was a sophomore in college, and I had my first serious dating relationship, and I was like, all right, I guess I got to do this now. Like, I've tried to date a few girls. It hasn't worked out. Like, this is, like, I just got to tell them. And I remember telling my mom, I had come home for Christmas break, and I was like, hey, we have to have a conversation, but I'm going to wait till after Christmas. And then, like, it was, like, 2 days after Christmas, and I was like, hey, can we sit down tonight and talk? And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, you're not gay. And so I was like, okay, you said it for me. That's great. So, I mean, it was definitely always in the back of her mind. Like, I mean, I don't think I'm the most flamboyant person in the world, but I mean, there's things that, I mean, parents know. I think unless you are willfully living under a rock, like if you know your kid, you know there's something different. You know that there's something.
The reason I asked that is because with my son, I mean, I would look at my wife. I'm talking 2 years old, 3 years old, and she'd look at me, and we're like, nah, probably not, you know. And then I always tell this story, and Donovan, I'm sure he's going to listen to this, so he'll laugh. But we were at a football game, and he was playing middle linebacker, and the kid ran through, and Donovan did like this pirouette around the kid and didn't tackle him. And I started cracking up. I love my kid, and Donovan and I joke about this all the time. But I was like, and I looked at Erica, I'm like, you know? So yeah, that's why I asked that question to you. So.
I had a question for you, Joe, and you just kind of invoked it because you said you weren't very flamboyant. So I think that there's like a misconception out there in the world that gay men are not manly. And I'd have to say the opposite for you. Like, knowing you, I would have not thought you were gay had you not said you were gay, right? Because I think there's this huge misconception that if you're a gay male, you have to be like
flamboyant,
feminine, right? And flamboyant, and you're not. So speak on that a little bit, maybe. Just like, you know, is that something in the gay community or something that's out there that's like a big misconception that bothers you, that you can't be like a man and still be gay, right?
Oh no, that it definitely bothers. Like there is just like a straight person, there's a whole array of ways you can be. Like there is no like, oh, that's a gay action, that's a gay personality. That's like, no, there can be a straight man who has like effeminate attributes. There can be a gay man who's super manly. Like it's all a continuum. It's all a spectrum. And I mean, I think like I emailed Lisa initially when she sent the questions for today, and I think our community has come to the point where like it's just about letting everyone be whoever the heck they are. Like let you live your best life. If you are not infringing on someone else and like affecting their life that they can't live their best life. And I don't mean like, oh, I believe this is wrong, like so you're affected. No, you have no right to judge what is right and wrong. Like that we all are going to meet the maker at some point, and I'm pretty darn confident he's not going to be like, you were not supposed to be this way. Like we're all made the way we're supposed to be made, and it's people who just decide that these attributes are a label. And I think that's a huge issue with society. Like all the labels, like we don't need labels. We can just be.
All the judging.
Yeah, all the judging.
Yeah, it's funny. You got Becky that did an 8-ball of Coke and drank a whole 5th of vodka the night before and got wasted and woke up and was like, you suck because you're gay. Like, right? Like, you just did a whole 8-ball of Coke and drank a 5th of vodka and who knows what else you did, right? And then you're going to wake up the next morning and judge someone based off of their feelings or how they are. Like, it's so stupid. But yeah. Thanks, Joe.
I have a couple gay friends that don't like flamboyant men at all. They're like, I'm gay because I like men, and that's that's what, that's what they say.
You got excited.
And got a little crazy there. So I must like men. No, so my son he was more flamboyant in his younger, trying to figure himself out. I think in his younger years. Now he doesn't like that at all, and he kind of has that same idea. So,
that makes sense. I never thought about it. What you just said, like if you're a gay man, you like men. Right. So like, why would you, not all everybody, but why would you want a man that doesn't want to be a man? Like, not that that's okay, but you can be attracted to men as a gay man. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. You never think about it like that.
I think
does that make sense?
Well, and I mean, it's interesting because like I can tell like multiple times in my past where I've been like I've suppressed certain ways that I may have just naturally acted because like I up until the point I was 19, I was like I don't want anybody to know. So I don't know how much my personality now is a product of that, and like just this is what I did, and then it just became my personality. Like, what would my personality have been if from the time I was 2, I was like, I can do what I want, and I can just say things the way I want, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I heard you saying, I wanted to ask you a question. You had said that you had to really try not to be gay for a long time. So maybe speak on that a little bit. Like, what is that like? Like, because I'm sure there's people out there that are suffering from the same thing, right? Like struggling, like actually trying not to be gay. Like, you know,
Yeah, I think even more so now than it was 5 years ago, because for some reason this resurgence of like hate against groups is so maddening to me. But I mean, at least personally for me, it was that, you know, there's always the fear. Like, I'm at a point now where everybody is accepting, and if you're not accepting, then you're not going to be in my circle, and it is just what it is. There's plenty of people who are accepting and allow people to be who they want to be. So from that point of view, I think as I was trying to not be or having trouble accepting who I was, it was a process. And I was hopeful like 10 years ago, like we were getting to a point where it wasn't as much of a process for people. But now I feel like we're back to a point where it is a process, and kids are scared to tell people, like, especially depending on where you live.
Right.
They've all been given people license to hate again in some areas. So these kids, and if you look at suicide statistics, like our community is very likely, much more likely. And that had started to go down, but now we're seeing a resurgence. So it's a problem.
And you're also seeing, and I saw an article Gallup did, I think it was late last year, about it's the generational thing too. Like the Zennials are more likely to come out, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more that have come out. I'm an Xer, and I feel like, and to your point of like this resurgence, it drives me crazy what's going on, because I remember being in high school in the 90s and friends coming out in high school in the 90s and seeing that progress, and then being part of progress with laws, like even the smallest things, like working at Vanguard and having 401k plans and working with clients because they wanted to make sure that their same-sex partners had the same benefits and rights as a married couple, and being part of that, and like seeing all that happen, and now feeling like it's all slowly getting pulled back again is so frustrating after feeling like we fought that forever for everybody. So
Yeah, I will say the silver lining is that at least like there are still people fighting. Like they did just pass the Respect for Marriage Act, so it's not like the Supreme Court can make a decision and pull Oberville back away from it. Like it's now codified. Like at least gay marriage here to stay. But as far as the other state rights, it's tough right now.
It's interesting, Joe. It's interesting. So you hear that like about it not being, it kind of regressing a little bit. And then, but I also hear the side, like my daughter's in high school and it's like cool to be gay in school, like in her school. Like, is that, do you think, is that like, do you think that hurts the gay community that they make it almost a fad, or like make it something like it's like cool to be gay? Like are they really gay, or are they doing it because they want to try to be like fitting into that community, like, or trying to be cool? Does that make sense? Like, do you think there's people out there that are misguided and they're just like, okay, yeah, I want to do this. This is cool. And then they're actually making it harder on people who are actually gay? Like, or what are your thoughts on that?
My personal opinion is that it's all a continuum. It's there's so many more people. Like sexuality itself is just so many aspects, and it's society that said like you have to be one thing or another. Like you have to be this or that. You have to. Whereas I think the kids today are starting to realize, like, I don't have to label.
There's choices.
I can, like, dabble over here, and just because I was over here for a little while and I decide this doesn't fit me, I can go here. And maybe it's more about the person than it is about being a label. Like, and I can be attracted to this person and this personality. I mean, I actually have a friend who is almost 50. She was married for years, and she never labeled her. And she actually, to this day, she has not labeled herself, but for the past 10 years, she's been in a relationship with a woman because she was attracted to that personality and her. She was never attracted to a woman before. And I think the kids today are getting that a little more to realize, like, I can be who I want to be. So my hope is that what we're seeing right now is like the last vestiges of like the people who don't want everybody to be who they want to be and want to put people in their boxes. Like, this is like their last hurrah of like, we're trying to make this happen before we're irrelevant, because they see like the younger people are making those viewpoints irrelevant.
And the reality is, this has always been going on, right? I mean, there have always been,
beginning of time.
Yeah, since the beginning of time, there's always been somebody who identified as gay or identified as another sex or whatever the case may be, but it was hidden. I mean, even in the 90s, you know, listen, I've kissed a woman.
The Romans,
I was
just thinking the same thing.
Right.
There was no hiding.
Right.
That's where my mind was going.
Yeah,
to.
there was no hiding it back then.
But like, you think about, like, I have kissed a girl before. I was curious. It was pretty awesome, not gonna lie. But
I kissed a girl.
you know,
I did too.
You did kiss a girl. Mm-hmm. You kiss one hopefully every night when you go to bed.
I do.
But it's not, to me, it's like back then though, if you're curious, you weren't allowed to be curious. And now, to your point, it's like curiosity is okay because it allows you to find what is best for you, not what's best for
I think people's fear,
else.
I'm sorry, I think
fine.
people's fear is the fact that there's a lot of change happening, period, in the world. And I think that exactly what you said, but the old school people, and I look at, hopefully my father-in-law doesn't listen to this, but I look at my father-in-law and they're like grasping for those last little bits of, well, this is not how things have been. And I want it to be same as in business. You know, things have changed in our business and we've evolved. It's the same thing that's happening on the planet. And I think people are just freaked out. Older people are freaked out about it.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Joe, I've heard you mention quite a few times about labels. And do you think that it's better to stop labels and it'd be more advantageous to be like, that's Joe, he likes guys, not it's Joe, he's gay, right? Because you kept saying that, like, labels. I keep hearing that. So like, is that like a downfall
still a label.
of no? Well, no, but I mean what I mean by no, but what I mean by that though is like not labeling them like that. Like, okay, he likes him and that's cool. Not saying, well, he likes him, so he's gay. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like, not throwing that label out there, just being like, that's who they like. Like you said, that he likes a person. It doesn't matter if that person, what sex that person is, they just like that person.
I mean, and it's more of a personal thing. I'm not saying like a full community thing. Like, to me, I don't see a benefit in like exact labels. Do I identify as a gay male? Yes. I will take that label on myself, but I don't think kids should be like encouraged to just label themselves right away. Like, they should be able to explore and be like, that I've had these experiences and I've come to give myself this label. So I think when I was talking about like kids and how it's kind of a fad, because I've seen that in my kids' school too. Like, my husband and I have talked about that. Like, we listen to our kids and they talk about like this person liking girls and she's a girl, and this person liking boys, and this person's dating a boy and a girl. And I'm like, this is the most intriguing thing to me, that they are this open as 10 to 15-year-olds about like, I'm dating a boy and a girl. Like, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Lebanon Catholic was like that.
100%.
I mean, I learned more from my kids at Lebanon Catholic than I knew prior, just from all of the crazy stuff that was going on. Well, not crazy, but everybody exploring different things. Mm-hmm. There was all kinds of different, one kid was into trees or something. I like, seriously.
The cat, was there somebody that identified as cat?
Oh, the furries?
The furries.
Yeah, that's happening in the middle school. When my son said they've been asking for litter boxes in the bathrooms. So I feel like that is almost taking it too far, though. I mean, is that taking it too far, Joe? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to offend anyone, but I mean, I don't necessarily understand that.
I don't understand that.
I mean,
If
The
somebody
litter
can
box
explain
might
it
be
to
the
us,
part that's too far for me.
Yeah.
Like,
You know what I would have done if I was in school at this time? I would have asked for a fire hydrant in the bathroom. And I just would have been like, I identify as a dog, and just go in there and pee on the fire hydrant. Like, how funny would that have been? Like, okay, well, if they get a litter box, can I get a fire hydrant? Because I identify as a dog.
I think the positive thing is we don't see 25-year-olds who are saying they want to go in the litter box. Like,
Yeah, that's okay.
That's true, too.
It
Yeah.
might be just a developmental trying to find yourself in middle school, or like, I
and
don't
if
know.
anyone knows, please share that knowledge with us. I mean, in all reality, because we don't know.
If there are benefits to using a litter box
I might
as
try it
a
out.
human, let
I'll
us
try it
know.
out. Save on the water bill, maybe.
Oh, man.
Would it save on the water bill?
I'm not even going there.
It would.
It's awesome.
You just throw it in the trash, but then you're probably paying more in trash because,
It all balances out.
I don't know. Yeah, where are we going?
Oh, man.
I mean,
Where have we been?
we've been just talking about all of our stories, so
Are we going to ask Joe? I'd like to ask Joe.
you can ask Joe whatever you
You're asking Joe a lot of
the
questions.
next questions. I want to learn. Listen, I'm
Yeah.
like, I love having Joe here
I guess-
and listening to a perspective, you know,
Right.
like you don't every day. I mean, we probably should do, and we talked about this in one of ours, we should probably have more conversations with the people in our lives about their lives
Yeah.
and genuinely ask them like, hey, talk to me about your life and what you're going through and what it's like to be you.
Right.
And we don't do that enough. And that's just not on the gay topic that we talked about
Life
that in
period.
terms of mental health, right? Like,
Right.
what are you going through in life right now? Like, we don't do that enough. So I think having Joe here and listening to a perspective from a gay man who had to go through life the way he did, I think it brings light to a lot of subjects. And those are things that we can share with our friends that might not be so open-minded.
So, I mean, if we go on, and we've kind of already started going into that path, is really what has changed for everybody since the first experience they ever had with meeting or being a part of somebody's life who's gay or is bi or is a lesbian or is transgender. And we probably all have different stories. So, I mean, who wants to go first?
I mean, I'm sure I can tell my story if you'd like to hear it. But no, so like I started with my son, always kind of having the thought that he may be, and I don't want to get into religion, but I almost have to in this
You do?
conversation because it's
Yeah.
part of it for me. We went to church, we were part of the church. We were kind of dug in with the church, and Donovan I knew he was questioning. We knew he was questioning before because he kind of mentioned it. And then one day we were at the house. He was outside with the cousins, all the girls. Came inside, and the girls and I were talking about. Brought up somebody that was gay, and Donovan was upstairs getting ready for work, and he was coming down the stairs. And I said, "Well, Donovan, do you have something you need to talk to us about?" So I almost outed him. I pretty much outed my son. So. And apparently he had just told them that he was gay outside right before that. He came down the stairs and he's like, I thought Emma told, which is my niece. He thought that she told me. And I was like, well, she didn't. And he said, yeah, Dad, I am. And I stopped for a second. And I was like, I don't care who you love. I mean, you're my son. I love you no matter what. And, sorry. I'm the emotional one. So,
Oh, man.
I said it may take me a minute to kind of come to terms with the whole thing because I had this idea of you picture things a little differently, right? So it took me a second. My friend at church was one of the pastors. We would meet for lunch. We'd meet for whatever. And I told him the story. And the look in his face, man, was enough for me I was like, I don't ever want to be a part of church ever again. Well, you know what it says. And I'm like, no, it doesn't say that. It also says that you shouldn't be overweight, that you shouldn't eat the way that look at you, you're 300 pounds. So, I mean, honestly,
Right.
like that's what it came down to
choose.
for me. So, yeah, you can't pick and choose. It's if sin is a sin, then I sin every day. If that's his choice of sin, and or if I don't think it's a sin, but that would be his sin or choices, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's been this last couple of years, and he came out at 18. He's now 20. So we've gone through lots of ups and downs, and I'm almost like deconstructing from the church and trying to figure out who we are as people because of that. So I know that I'm way more open and understanding, and I think attuned to what's happening with other people now that I wouldn't have been before. I do worry about him for the fact of, the struggle that he's having. I mean, yesterday his grandfather on his mother's side said, all gay people are pedophiles. He read it online. Oh. And I'm like, wow. It took everything I had not to get in my car and drive over to this guy's house and have a conversation with him. I'm like, and he was upset. I'm like you got to consider the source.
He just got called a pedophile. Like,
yeah.
What?
So that's the stuff he's going through. And he's going through, I mean, dating right now is hard, and looking for an actual relationship and not like a one-night stand is tough. I think, period, in whatever community you're in. But he's like, Dad, I can't find anybody that wants a relationship. It's like all one night stand. So he's struggling with that. Yeah. And just trying to be there and listen. I mean, he's telling me way too much, more than I'd ever thought I'd hear, which is cool, I guess, that he's able to share that stuff with me. But I feel like we're in the process. We're changing as he's changing, and we're all adapting to it. So something new.
But I think hearing that story, the fact that you asked him and made it okay is going to go a world. We all go through those transition periods where hey, I'm looking for something that this person's not, and at least my experience was the same. It was really hard to find that person who wanted the same things as I did, who wanted to have a family younger. We adopted when I was 29 and he was 26. That's really hard to find in the community, but they're out there. It just is an exhausting search. So but
there's hope. You found it.
There is, and we've been together almost 20 years. So it is there, but having that family support goes further than anything. Because it is knowing that we have a foundation that we can go back to. And my family's in the same way, they've accepted our adopted, we're a family unit. When I was 18, did I think that was going to happen? I didn't. I can honestly say, I assumed that I was going to be in a position where I was just going to go my own way and do my thing and live my true life. But for him to have that from the time he's 18, and you took a huge burden off his shoulders just asking, and I could be wrong, maybe he's different, but having been there, if my parents had just said, is this what you are, and then followed it up with, that's okay, it would have been such a huge relief.
I mean, I remember one of my friends from high school came out in high school, and it was one of those where it wasn't really a shock to all of us that knew him, but his dad kicked him out of the house. I don't even know if that relationship's been mended. I've seen pictures with him and his mom at this point, and they talk, but I felt bad. I mean, he would come in to my work. I worked for Arby's at the time, and I would make sure he'd have food, because he was couch surfing pretty much for 2 years of high school because he had nowhere to go, just because he wanted to be himself. And that sucks.
That's not true love, though.
It's not.
How do you truly love your child, right? And then not love them because of a choice. I don't feel like that's true love.
And that is the biggest issue for me. And I know we shouldn't talk about church, but I love my kids no matter what. And that for me was the biggest.
How do you not love somebody because of their choice? Yeah. You don't really love them. Can I ask Joe a question that's off this topic again?
Go. You can ask whatever you want.
I know. I'm just trying to digress.
You don't have to ask permission.
I feel like Rob's had this list of questions for you.
No, the funnier part is he was like, I don't know what I'm. Yeah.
When I try to listen to everybody and then you try to bring it back, but I've seen you and Sean with your kids and the dynamic, and you guys are great fathers. So what is it like for your kids, right?
That's a great question.
In the public and at school, when they're asked questions hey, who are your parents? Do they say, I have two dads? And do they explain that? Maybe talk about that a little bit, because I'm sure there's people out there that are younger, that are gay, that want to have a family, and they're afraid of that situation. So maybe that's a good situation to talk about.
They've definitely both, it's been open the entire time for both of them. And all of their friends know that we're a same-sex family and we're a non-traditional family. They have, going back to the bullying conversation, of course, that is something that kids have bullied them about. But we've also pointed out to that, we've always gone back to reinforce for them that sometimes these kids are going to bully because maybe they don't have maybe their family isn't cohesive anymore. But we've been a cohesive family. We've built this family, and all families look different. And I think it has helped other people that they've been around see that the family makeup at this point, it's not mom, dad, and 2.5 kids anymore. It's maybe a single mom. Maybe it's a single mom with whoever, maybe whatever it may be. Like, your family's who you decide it is. And have they encountered some criticism about it? Yeah, but they've weathered it pretty well, and they have never voiced anyway that they wish it were different.
Did they call you guys both dad? Is it dad a dad?
So yeah, we were they both call us Daddy Joe and Daddy Sean, and I don't know if as they get older, if that's going to change, or it seems like it's just going to stick because that's what we've always been. It might be a little weird to have a 30-year-old son calling us daddy, but but I mean, it seems to be just what they call us.
Yeah, from my experience, it goes.
Maybe it'll turn into just both dad.
Yeah.
Just be referred to as dad.
I mean, sometimes that does happen where we'll be together and we'll hear one of them say dad, and just whichever answers first is who they talk to, or they will be like, no, I meant Daddy Joe. If it's something that they specifically needed us for.
That's cool. Thank you.
That was a good question.
Sorry.
It's got real quiet.
Why are you looking at me like that, Lisa?
I don't know.
That was really awkward.
My the Benadryl's kicking in for my.
Or you have something else to say? Am I supposed to be speaking right now? You made me uncomfortable.
I don't know. It's fine.
We're at like the hour mark, so let's hit them with some important questions.
So there's still a lot of barriers, right? And we've talked about this a little bit. What advice do you have for anyone who maybe is afraid to come out right now?
I think finding that support system, which is, I think, in many ways easier now than it was maybe 2 decades ago.
For sure.
But finding a support system that you can rely on. If you're worried about your family reaction or your sibling reaction or whatever it may be, make sure that you have those people that you've confided in first and have those safe places first, so that you have a safe place to go to when what you're worried might not go well doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Because we always have to make sure we have a safe space and realize that there is a whole community and a chosen family out there that will be there for you. Like, there is a big community.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people living their life and plenty of supports in that way.
I mean, I can't speak for myself, but just seeing friends go through this, like, it does get better. Right. And I think that's for any complication in anyone's life. But to your point, have that support system, and it's going to be hard at first, but it'll get better, right? You'll find your groove, you'll find where you're supposed to be. It's the train going by, if that's what you're making that
weird.
face.
Or
for.
ADD.
Sorry.
It makes you want to, any other sounds, it's an issue.
I think also just acknowledging as you go along the journey to come out and be who you are, acknowledging that there are going to be people who aren't okay with it.
Right.
And that's their problem. It's not yours. It is not something that you're doing wrong. It's their issue.
Yeah.
Really, I feel like it's getting to the point where you're comfortable in your own skin.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be comfortable in your skin and to say, and I think that's in life, period, right? You got to be comfortable in your own skin.
Goes back to my favorite saying, be unapologetically you.
Right.
Who gives a fuck what other people think? I mean, seriously, who cares? If you're fucking gay, you're gay, right? If you're straight, you're straight. If you want to be a furry, don't be a furry. Sorry, I had to make it funny, but no, but seriously, that's really what it's down to. It's you are who you are. And no matter how bad the society wants to change it, they're not going to change who you are. And the more that you try to adapt, the harder your life is going to become and the more confused you get. So just be who you are. It's that simple.
Yep.
I think, so I played volleyball in college, and my one teammate, she was gay, she was lesbian. And I still remember kids, we were in class, and we were in a philosophy class taught by a Baptist preacher. Okay.
Oh.
But I thought that was going to be the worst class, but actually he was the most open-minded person ever, and he didn't put his religion in on the philosophy class, which was really cool. But I remember being in class with her, and we had to create our own governments. Why are you spinning stuff?
It's happening. I'm sorry.
We had to
Trust me, I almost opened this just so I had something to do.
We had to create our own governments, and taking this back to like, thank God your kids are here and not in Florida. And this was school in Florida, and this is the Bible Belt. Again, Joe and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. Like growing up on the coast of Florida, you felt the diversity. A lot of people were a lot more accepting. In the center of the states, Bible Belt. So to your religion, yeah, we go back to the religion because that's what happens. But these girls were like, and this is during the AIDS epidemic as well, right? So it was already like people are coming out as gay. And then on top of that, they're saying, well, if you're gay, you're going to get AIDS, right? So
propaganda.
Right. They literally were like, well, if you have AIDS, we're going to put you on an island and we're going to brand you. That was one thing that we had. Oh, and if you're gay too, you're going to go on your own space and we're going to more or less scarlet letter you because you're gay. And I would be in these classes with my teammate, and I would be the one defending her because she was still in a place where she couldn't defend herself. Her family knew that she was a lesbian and that's her path. But to your point, you got to find those people who are your safe space. And she'd just be like, Lisa, can you please? I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like, and that's what you had to do. It sucks.
Yeah.
I feel bad for you going through shit like that.
We should probably wrap this up.
Oh my God, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to keep us on
These
task.
guys need fidget spinners over here.
I do need
to
one.
stay in their seats.
You have no idea right now. I want to jump out of my
My
seat.
dopamine levels are dropping right now. I need.
Oh my gosh. That shirt could go the extreme other way too. If you're chasing the wrong dopamine, just saying.
What's it say?
Like heroin or
Follow
something?
the dopamine.
That's an exercise shirt. Follow the dopamine.
But
I get what you're saying.
You get where
Yeah.
I'm going. So if for anyone, what would you want others to know or wish they understood more about the LGBTQ plus community?
I feel like this is for Joe because I don't have any room to speak on that.
I just go back to like most of what I said about like it isn't about like needing to fit into some bubble or to fit into some box.
Yeah.
It's about just letting everyone be who they want to be. Whether they want to do drag, whether they are transgender, because our transgender brothers and sisters are going through like the
Complete
ringer
hell
right
right
now.
now.
Like people are actively trying to like deny them healthcare and stuff.
Right.
So just acknowledging that everybody's just a person and has the same human rights and has the right to enjoy their life the way they see fit. I think in supporting them in that and doing things that, we can only do so much as individuals, but as a community together, we can make sure that people are safe, have those safe spaces.
Do your thing.
The only Jimmy Choos I own, 2 pairs of glasses.
They're blinging.
Is that what you're looking at?
Oh, those are Jimmy Choo's.
They're blinging. Blinging. I
Balling.
don't want to stretch them. I don't want to stretch them out.
Balling.
And then I guess last, and all of us can probably answer this too, because I feel like we represent
want to.
this, but how can we best be allies for the LGBTQ plus community?
Join Iron Valley Real Estate because we let you do your thing.
Oh,
Like that?
yeah. That was a nice little shameless plug.
Yeah, good plug.
I'm just kidding. I just think shut up, be yourself, and let other people be themselves. It's not really complicated, right? Life really isn't. I feel like people try to make life complicated, and it's really fucking simple. Do what you got to do. Make sure it doesn't negatively affect others. And if people are doing something that doesn't negatively affect you, shut up and keep it moving.
Right.
Love. That's the word. Period. That's it.
I love you, Corey.
Love you too.
Try and have an open mind, like if you've always thought in one way, trying to expand your viewpoints and opinions and look at things in a different light.
I really like what you just said. Like, really, if it doesn't hold up to the litmus test of is this loving, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like if it's not a loving kind action, then don't do it.
Damn, I'm screwed.
I was going to say we're both screwed then
Wow.
because we like to mess with each other. So.
Yeah, but that's just friendly
Or other
banter.
people,
It's
too.
okay among friends.
I think I would say knowledge is power. And I had this conversation with Justin the other day. we have access to information now unlike we ever have in the past. I mean, some of us at this table used to have to go to the library and do research papers off of lots of books.
Wasn't that all of us at this?
It was
table?
all
Maybe.
of us
Was
at
it
this
all
I think it was
of us?
everybody.
at this table.
I don't know.
I remember
What was that stupid thing that you
encyclopedia
had to go through
salespeople.
at
the card
library?
catalog?
That you had to like flip through it on the
Yeah.
screen and go through like all
The microfiche.
The microfilms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was horrible.
Yeah. So
I thought that was cool. Made me feel like I was
It
doing
was
something
cool.
cool.
yeah. I mean, you have, unless you do not have access to a cell phone or to technology, you have access to information. And there's plenty of people out there that you can have as resources too, as long as they're giving good information. But I think that's a big part of being an ally. And just to add on to that with my own experience, I have a nibbling. And everyone, when I said that, was like, what's a nibbling? I didn't know how to address my family member who does not identify. And I had to look it up. I literally Googled, how do I refer to this person who was previously my nephew? Well, they're my nibbling, and that's how you refer to it. But I took the initiative to figure that out. I didn't rely on other people. But to me, that's a big piece of it. Look for the information, find the right information. There's no reason for ignorance when you have access to it.
I didn't even know there's a term for that.
I-
I just learned something
I didn't
new
either.
today.
Yep.
Nibbling.
When you say
Nibbling.
that, I'm really hungry. So
I'm
that
really
makes me
upset.
wanna go eat.
I don't have a nibbling.
Exactly what I thought.
I'm out here trying to nibble.
Speaking of, I'm ready for lunch.
Starving.
Is it lunchtime already? Jeez.
Oh my God.
Not quite.
11.
No, it's not quite.
Anyway, so to me, it's just don't be ignorant.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's no excuse for it.
This is a good podcast. You killed it, Joe.
Thanks,
for
Joe,
coming.
Thanks for inviting me.
for being here.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or words? Anything you want to ask us before we end this?
I'm drawing a blank.
All right.
I think
He's got a blank.
I've emptied that.
Nope. We did so good this whole episode. I'm not doing that. Not doing that. Wow. Anyway, we should probably wrap this up on that note.
So everyone, go out and support Pride Month and the people in your lives with love, right?
Love.
With love.
It's all about love.
It's all about love.
Love is love.
Love is love.
Period.
All right. Peace out, everyone.
Later.